punishment.
No, it's abuse.
Booyah.
I think Scott Patterson murdered his wife and his child. Prove me wrong.
Do you feel the church accepted abuse?
Yep, that's him.
Yep.
Ready? Does your church protect sexual predators?
How do you top the most watched season yet?
Fabulous.
It's a bit erotic, a bit exotic.
You have no idea. And break.
Yeah, it's live.
It's live?
Yeah.
Are we live right now?
We are.
Look at you. Look at us, huh?
Wow.
Look at us. Welcome to Drinkin' Bros, kids. Live for the second debate of the year with a different candidates. Joining D'Anthony Hollaway and I tonight is Mr. Rob O'Neill.
Ross, thanks for having me, man. This
Thanks
is
for coming to the hotel. Look at us.
No, it's so nice. The studio, not hotel, is glorious.
No, it's a hotel. And we're okay to say that because we're here for a very special event.
Yeah, we're going to watch Creed tomorrow. Tomorrow, right?
What day is that, Rob?
Oh, that'd be tomorrow.
But tomorrow is
September 11th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything happen on that day?
Allegedly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, allegedly. Did you watch Loose Change before you came over?
No, I haven't yet. I got to see that movie because I'm at the point now where I'm not even sure. Like, my brother Tommy's here. I tried to check out my hotel room.
Yep.
And I wasn't even convinced I was in my own hotel room.
It's kind of how it feels out there. And same with this debate tonight. I don't know what's going on. I don't understand the candidate that Trump is up against. They love Joe Biden. They said he was fine. He was fit. He was sharp. He was mentally there. He was ready to go. It's the sharpest he's ever been. And then after the last debate, they said, you got to get the fuck out of here, old man, because you're dead and we need somebody else.
How crazy is that they completely got rid of him? And no one knows who's in charge of anything.
Wait, who are you talking about?
I have no idea. I don't know.
Who?
I don't know.
Exactly, Joe Biden.
Who's the president?
No
we
one
don't
knows. No
know
one knows.
who the president of the United States is right now.
Because we're about to, bear with me. There's a couple strike forces off the coast of Iran. We're going to go to war with Iran. The strike forces are there. Someone made the decision. It wasn't Leon or who's the guy in charge of the Pentagon?
Panetta?
Oh, Austin?
No.
Austin. No.
Lloyd Austin?
20 years ago.
Someone's making a decision though.
The SecDef?
We don't know.
No one knows.
Well, he's got ass cancer, so he shouldn't be doing anything.
No, he shouldn't be doing anything. But who's actually in charge?
Lloyd of what?
Of
The United States of America.
Who the fuck are you talking about?
Jesus Christ, I feel like we're playing a fucking game here of who's on third. Who's in
What
charge
the
of America,
fuck?
dude?
You know?
No. An answer.
It's hard to say.
So who's in charge?
Oh, my God.
Nobody knows who
is in charge.
Who's in charge? What? I don't know. Who's in charge?
David Muir.
Okay, David Muir. I'll go with that. He's America's trusted news anchor. I don't know who's in charge of the country. We don't know who's running the country. We might find out tonight. We might not. I don't know what's going to happen here.
Real quick. So
Yeah.
there's a debate, apparently, allegedly.
Allegedly.
Who's debating?
Oh, my God, dude. I can't do this one more time.
I don't know who's on third. I know that.
Kamala Harris, Donald John Trump are debating tonight.
Who is this fucking ghoulish creature?
Well, look, if you're watching ABC right now, you're seeing Gollum on your screen. And that's kind of what our Congress is
Good
right
God,
now.
man, that's hard to watch.
It's old people. It's older people. Oh, Chris
Jesus,
Christie.
Chris Christie,
They
fuck.
threw that fat fuck up there. Ozempic exists.
Yeah.
You stupid son of a bitch.
Who knew that the Hamburglar was the governor of a major state in the United States? He just took that uniform off, and now he looks like a dude.
My God, dude.
We saw
look
him at a
this
football
piece of shit.
game in Jersey one time, and he was wearing mom jeans, and he had the biggest gunt I've ever seen.
I took a picture of it, and no lie, I swear to God, it exists on my phone. I've never seen a gunt on a man like this before in my life. And Dan's like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? And I go, I got to get photographic evidence of this gunt. I've never seen one like it before.
His belt, I've seen him before. I saw him in the green room at Fox News. His belt is easily a 90 something.
Oh yeah, when he goes to JCPenney, he has to do like those fat dudes do on the airplane. Like, hey, you got a belt extender for this thing? It's like, hey, sir, that's the biggest belt we have. You got to get out of the store. Stop eating the fucking kids.
Something I can ease into right here, man. I'm on my fourth meal.
I mean, he's got to be minutes away from just switching to sweatpants permanently, right?
I guess
that'll be the end of it for him.
I look. I don't know if there's sweatpants that are big enough for him. So he's switched, by the way, Rob. He's a full rhino now, and
100%.
he's endorsed Kamala and everything else.
He's one of those people that, like the Dick Cheneys, that they literally get up on stage and like, well, I'm a Republican, and their jowls fucking start babbling.
Yep.
Dick Cheney's probably the biggest piece of shit in the world.
Nah,
next to Liz Cheney, he's the biggest piece of shit in the world.
Nah, he's a good guy.
He's the one who sent you guys over there for 20 years.
Yeah, no big deal. We murdered a bunch of people for no reason.
Weapons of mass destruction, brother. Did you find him? Did you guys find him?
We didn't find Chris Christie there because there are no KFCs. So no, we didn't find this piece of shit.
But any weapons of mass destruction?
Can you imagine that where Dick Cheney was, where he literally shot someone in the face with a shotgun?
And the guy apologized to him.
Hey, sorry about that.
Sorry for walking into your swing, bud.
That's a boss move, though. That's like fucking somebody else's wife in front of them and saying, hey, man, sorry what you made me do right there.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to cream pie her. Speaking of which, shout out to Dave Grohl tonight. You're going through it. And oh, boy. I've got another confession to make. I've got a baby with another lady. And I want to say I'm sorry to you on Instagram Live. Why would you release that on your own Instagram story tonight? My God, Dave, I love you. I'm a big Foo Fighters fan. Maybe he was trying to bury it
because of the debates tonight. He just figured nobody, this is going to be so much news tonight.
Perfect time to do it.
Here's the part of the conversation where I'm asking you, did I miss something?
You sure did. Dave Grohl, about 30 minutes ago, to Dan's point, right before this, said literally, I've got another kid. So he's got a child with another woman, and he's trying to make things up with his current wife and his kids right now, and he's asking for respect, love, and privacy for all the children involved, including the unborn one.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, how's Magic Johnson doing? Because he's on the screen now.
Oh, boy. Donna Brazil.
Oh, my bad.
is she doesn't have AIDS like Magic does, but she looks worse.
You don't know that.
That's true.
She could very well have AIDS.
That's true.
Donna Magic Brazil.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a good thing that they had her on this 5 minutes before we get kicked off tonight, knowing that she gave the questions to Hillary Clinton in the 2016 election? They're like, bring her back for 2024. Bring her back for this debate. Who cares? Who cares? My God. She's not wigged up, though. That's a true gray, and she's going for it.
Now, I've heard a lot of stuff just being on the end, and I think that there are lizard people out there. Is Donna Brazil one of them, or just Hillary?
Tough to say. Black don't crack, so I think this might be legit. Now, white people, for sure, dude. You got to get your shit stretched out, dude. Or like Alex, the psychos, you got to go, lizard people. You got to get all stretched out. You got to fucking go to some place else. It's crazy up there. It would be great if he was hosting this debate tonight. I want you to shut the fuck up, Kamala. I got some things to ask.
Every time this blonde woman comes on the screen, I feel like I saw the fucking ring. Every time.
Yep.
Holy shit.
She's about to crawl right out of the screen.
She's legit.
What in the fuck, man? You know, HD TV is not all it's wrapped up to be because most people don't belong in HD.
I've said it for years. There was no need to go to 4K.
No.
I don't need to see Tom Cruise's pubic hair.
No, most of you look better from a distance.
100%. I was good at 720. That's where I lived. I lived in a 720 world. I didn't live in this bullshit. Like, you don't even want to see my skin this close tonight, dude. 720 is where we all needed to be, and then they were like, jack it up for this old hag.
Oh,
Good God.
Who is that?
I don't know, but she's fucking me up.
She strikes me as someone who is absolutely fucking horrible.
Brian Cox gave us $50. Dan Ross and Rob should be in charge of America.
Yeah, goddamn right we should.
America would be a lot drunker if that were the case.
Sure would be. Cheers. Drinking hard AF seltzer. Tommy's here. Cheers to Tommy. Tommy. Cheers, brother. Ryan Mills is here. Jesse's on the ones and twos tonight. 3 minutes away from the greatest debate of our life. In all sincerity, here's what D'Anthony and I have said on the show for the last 2 weeks. If Trump sticks to policy for the next 90 minutes, he wins. He can walk off the stage. It'll be an easy night.
That's it. That's it. And I'm still giving speeches around the country. I've speak to hundreds of people. Hundreds of different events all over the country, and everyone always tells me is if Trump can just not be his own worst enemy, he'll win.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, because you got to figure, because he's fighting against the cheat. They're going to cheat their balls. They're already cheating right now, big time.
They're trying to, but I will say this: with Biden hopping off the ballot, they did have to switch the ballots to Kamala. Also,
it took a lot of time for them to do that.
Right. The other part too, which Dan mentioned a few weeks ago, is if Trump supporters come out in full force and make it so big that they can't cheat, you can cheat 10,000, 12,000 here or there. It's pretty fucking easy. You get old people to stuff the ballots. You can bring in illegals who are working in the back of fucking Taco Bell. Liv Moss, obviously not a sponsor, wish they were. You can do that type of shit.
Liv Moss.
Yeah, you can live Moss like that. But if it's more than 100, 200,000, you can't shut down the election for 3 to 4 weeks in 8 different states and say, well, we got to wait for these mail-in ballots. It'll make it a lot harder.
I mean, it doesn't happen in any other country in the world. No, but nobody does this.
Venezuela.
I don't know if it could get much harder.
They make everything so easy. Like I was just in Indiana, Notre Dame. You don't need cash. Why don't you need cash? Oh, because we're a cashless society. Oh, cool. Notre Dame, thank you. Cashless, cashless, cashless.
Yep.
A picture to get. You don't need a boarding pass to get on a plane. You're voting. Oh, my bad.
Yep.
Nothing.
Good to go.
You'll be fine.
Good to go over there. Condolences to anybody from Notre Dame watching. Brutal loss over the weekend. My God.
Yeah, they're terrible.
They
team.
beat Texas A&M and then they lost to Northern Illinois.
The Salukis. Shout out to the Salukis up there. Tons of Saluki fans drinking hard AF seltzer up there. Yeah, they love us up there. Shout out to the Salukis. Now, whoever this broad is, they had the right idea, but they were like, look, we got to get one Latinx, one old honky, and then whatever race this. We need a white guy there, and then
give us a quick pussy and then a black girl,
and then a black girl. And this is a nice thing. This is like a brochure for a junior college, and it's like all the professors. They're like, oh, well, we're gonna raise your kids and give them a higher education.
That dude's eyes are way too close together. It's pissing me off.
Sure are, dude. There's definitely some radio genes in there, and I'm talking about Cuba Gooding Jr.
Yeah, he might have fetal alcohol syndrome.
He could. He could be in the fetal position at the end of tonight. If Kamala has a bad debate, watch the 4 of them melt down afterwards.
Oh, that black girl will be lactating.
She sure will be. She sure will be.
It's happened to her before.
And when the debate starts, by the way, we will raise the volume up to everybody else's level. That way you guys can hear it, and we will intermittently enter. Jesse, go ahead and raise that.
It took me a while to find my brother Tommy today. He was wearing that same pantsuit she's wearing.
Really?
Yeah.
Looks a nice suit.
What do you think? What do you think her real voice sounds like? Because that ain't it.
No, that's not it.
Margins essentially tied in the polls nationally.
Do I have to say it?
Battlegrounds,
yeah.
Including here in Pennsylvania.
Probably something like
very
that.
much in play.
Probably something close to that.
ABC News presidential debate right now.
As you imagine,
This
Mr.
is an
Trump.
ABC News special. The
What are you
most
doing, Mr.
consequential
Trump?
moment of
That
this
would be a
campaign,
blast if it was
Kamala
like that, but
Harris.
I doubt it.
Just have Eddie Murphy do the debate.
Or if Trump just said, please use your real voice. Don't do a Kamala. And then she goes, man, Mr. Trumps.
Face to face.
Trumps.
Historic.
What do you think about jobs, Trumps?
The ABC
I would love to
News
see that
presidential
debate. We're not going to see that, obviously, but it would be great.
David Muir and
Really,
I
really
kind
great.
of want to see the donkey from Shrek show up.
Or
Thank you for joining us for tonight's
here we
ABC
go.
News presidential
Look at
debate.
this.
We wanna
Please
welcome
yell at me
viewers
like that.
watching on
Muir's got the
ABC
makeup
and
on,
around the
David
world
Muir.
tonight. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump are just moments away from taking the stage in this
They're
unprecedented
moments
race
away.
for
What do you
president.
think Kamala's doing backstage? Does she think she tells her handlers, like, look, I got the shit?
No, she's back there cooking collard greens, bud, in the
That's
bathtub.
right, in the bathtub.
Yeah, they put a bathtub in her green room, and she's like, green room? Collard green room.
July 21st.
That's
of course,
stupid.
that decision
She's
followed
washing people's feet.
President Donald Trump in June. Since then, this race
I
has
legit do
gone
not trust this
entirely
woman's voice, but I
And
want
that
to
brings
hear
us
her
to the
yell at me
rules
like
of
the
tonight's
donkey in
debate.
Shrek.
Yeah,
90 minutes with five commercial
at
breaks.
college,
No
they have
topics or
this. It's
questions shared with
a
the
honky
campaigns.
class. You got to speak
the
like a
candidates
white.
will have 2 minutes to answer questions.
2
and
minutes
this
to
is
answer
the clock.
questions.
We don't give a
That's
fuck
what
about
they'll
the
be
rules,
seeing.
bitch. We don't
2
play by
minutes for
rules.
polls
Isn't it
and
nuts
1
that
minute for follow-ups,
here's the
clarifications,
rules.
or
Now,
responses.
you need to
Their
do blah, blah, blah,
microphones
blah,
will
blah,
only
blah.
be
You
turned
can't,
on
you
when it's their
can't do
turn
whatever,
to
blah,
speak.
you
No
can't.
pre-written notes
The
allowed.
fucking rules.
There is no audience
You're
here
gonna
tonight in this
be
hall at the
debating with Xi
National
Jinping
Constitution
in a
Center.
year.
This is an intimate setting
Here's the
for
rules,
two
though,
candidates
G.
who
Here's
have
the
never
rules.
met.
I like how they zoomed in on the microphones as if that was going to do something. Oh, people at home. Oh,
podium to the right.
Oh,
So let's now welcome the candidates to the stage.
Here we go.
President Kamala
Let's
Harris
get ready to rumble.
If Trump had any balls, he'd be coming out to Stone Cold's music right now.
That'd be great. They wouldn't let him know.
Are they going to shake hands?
Look at this. They're going to shake.
Can they do it?
Let's have a good debate.
Let's have a good debate. They are going to shake hands. Nice
Welcome
to see
to
you.
you both. It's
Okay,
wonderful to have
not
you.
bad, not bad.
That was a really weird
Good
handshake.
evening. We are looking forward to a spirited.
Oh, she's about to start
and
laughing
thoughtful
already?
Started
So let's
cackling.
get started. I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is the
what's that?
number
Why's the
one
country
issue, and
fucked?
that is the economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters,
You meant
are you
Biden.
better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid.
Oh, boy.
And I am actually the only person on
There's
this
no
stage
way
who
she
has a
launched
plan
into that
is
answer
about
that
lifting
quickly
up
without
the
having
middle
it
class and working people of
beforehand.
America.
Are you fucking kidding me?
I believe in the ambition.
I was
the
raised in
aspirations,
Berkeley,
the
so let
dreams
me
of the
get
American
to
people.
this. By
And that is
Oakland, I mean
why
Berkeley.
I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing, and the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and
She's
I
really
intend
nervous.
on
she
extending
is scared
a tax
shitless
cut
right now.
for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion,
They
one of them
teed this
is
up for
small
her.
businesses.
Wow.
I was
But-
actually,
and she's
my mother
losing her
raised
mind
my
right now.
sister and
Trump's
me,
gonna destroy her.
but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations,
Dry
which
mouth.
will result
Yep.
in $5 trillion
Dry
to
mouth.
America's
She's
deficit.
super nervous.
My
And they only give him
opponent
one
has
bottle
a
of
plan
water,
that
by
I
the way.
call the Trump's sales
not kidding.
tax.
Was that one of the
which
rules?
would be a
No shit.
20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying.
Still
for
haven't
tax
answered the
cuts for
question.
billionaires.
No, not a word.
Trump.
You dumb bitch. You didn't
First
answer
of
the
all, I have
fucking
no
question.
sales tax.
All right,
That's
let's
an
hear from the
incorrect
fucking
statement. She knows
president.
that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings.
about the
They're
kittens.
going in violently.
Ripping the
These are the
kittens' heads
people
off.
that she and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security.
Nobody
during
asked
this
you
debate.
shit, David.
I want to hear about the kittens.
Are you fucking
Tell me
kidding
about how you're going to save those
Are you
kittens.
kidding me?
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us.
She still hasn't answered
Donald
the original
Trump
question.
left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health
State governors shut down
epidemic
states.
in a century. Donald Trump left
Pandemic.
us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War.
Oh my God.
And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes
The
of
CIA
the American
literally
people. But
killed
I'm gonna
one of
tell
our
you,
presidents.
On this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook. A bunch of lies, grievances, and name calling.
How many
What you're
dicks
gonna
do I need
hear
to suck
tonight
to become
is
the
a
AG
detailed
of California?
and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of
I don't think she has
bringing
any
us
idea what she's
together
saying
when
right
we
now.
have so much
No.
more in common
What is
than
she
what
talking about?
separates
I'm not
us.
really sure.
I think
Pledge
she's
to
slipping
you
over
to
stuff
be a
right now.
president
Like
for
she's
all
legit at the end of her
President
talking
Trump will
points.
give you a minute here to respond.
Yeah,
Number
1
I
minute.
have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the
you go.
pandemic was
There you go.
not since
At least he said that. Okay.
1917, where 100 million people died. Has there been anything like it? We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs.
There you go.
Bounce
So that's
back,
what I was
and it
waiting for him to
bounced
say
back,
tonight.
and
It's
it
the
went to
fucking
their
bounce back
benefit.
jobs.
But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
Yeah, make sure
So-
you cut his microphone.
Yeah,
Donald
which
Trump
is
has
fine,
no
by
plan
the
for
way.
you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse, mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode
She
the
can
deficit.
dry mouth right
Yep.
now.
You
16
can hear it.
Nobel laureates
You
have
can physically
described
hear it.
his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look.
Yeah, we
at
need a
where we
recession.
are and where
Inflation
we
is at
stand on the
fucking
issues. And I'd
20%.
invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you.
This is
because
how you
he's
know
more
this dumb
interested
bitch
in
doesn't have
defending
any idea
himself
how
than he is in
an
looking out
economy
for you.
works. Like, you literally need a recession after hyperinflation.
Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top
He
professors,
went to the
think my
school.
plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences. Like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this, because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country, because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response, and you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is, under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did,
She's running out of ideas
with COVID, is he
tell.
actually thanked
This is about it.
President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window.
Which is great. So she
She's
can't
going
say
to
anything.
my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist.
That's right.
Her father's a Marxist professor in economics.
By the way, having a
And
trade
he taught
deficit
her
is not
well.
an intrinsically
But
bad
when you look
thing.
at
No,
what
it usually
she's
means you have a
done to
strong
our country,
economy because
and
you're
when you
buying
look at
more
these
shit than you're
millions
exporting.
and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly.
She just
where
doesn't
it's,
know
I
anything.
believe,
She
21
has no
million
idea what
people,
she's
not
really
the
just doesn't
15
know
that
it.
people
They put her on
say.
stage
And I
right
think it's
now,
a lot
and she's
higher
just-
than
she's just
21.
trying to regurgitate
That's
what they
bigger
told
than
her.
New York State.
What's this
pouring
post she's
in.
doing right
And
now?
just look at what
Atlas?
they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
Oh, my God.
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump.
Oh, there we go.
You knew it was going there.
Let's go to abortion.
Yeah.
Last year, you said that.
Yeah, I guarantee
a female was going to ask it.
Well, they held that question until she was losing.
Correct.
Then last month, you said that your
1,000%.
administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights.
Reproductive
In the home state
rights,
of
meaning
Florida,
you can
surprised
murder your
many,
kid.
with
Let's go to
regard
that.
Your 6-week abortion ban, because you initially had said that it was too short, and you said, "quote I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks." But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would.
Can you
vote to
imagine,
support
Russ,
the
that
6-week
this is
ban.
the girl that brought
Vice
up abortion?
President Harris
Yeah,
says
no,
that women
crazy.
shouldn't
Not in a
trust
million
you on
years.
the issue
Crazy.
of abortion
Hey, man.
because you've
Hey.
changed your
Hey,
position so many
Trumps.
times.
I want to talk about killing my
Therefore,
kids.
Why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing
Hit the
that
reset
vote
button,
is
Trumps.
because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job. but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical.
Oh, we
the
gonna keep
Democrats
a real
are radical
wall
in that.
down there.
And
Keep the
her
baby
vice
comfortable. I
presidential
remember that guy.
pick, which I think was a horrible pick,
that
by the
guy.
way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But
I believe
her vice
Tim Walz
presidential
wanted
pick
late-term
says
abortion, as he
abortion
does.
in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions. Very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government.
As the Constitution demands.
Yeah, 100%
with
the Constitution says.
So at least he answered this. Nobody's ever answered like this.
But she's going to come back with, but women's health.
There is
But
no
health.
state in this
Watch,
country
watch.
where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President,
Wrong.
I want to get your response to
You're
it.
fucking wrong.
That's a lie.
As I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump
Tell us.
hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly
Oh my God,
as
her
he
mouth is so
intended.
dry.
60
And now in
senators
over
voted
20
for those
states,
guys,
there
by
are
the way.
Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor
Is
of
there,
a
is there that
crime
much
of
that I'm
violation
missing
to
going
their
on
body
around the world of
does
rape,
not have
rape
the
and
right
incest
to make a
is
decision about
maddening?
what happens to
Am
their
I
body
missing
next.
it?
That
Sure.
is
Are
immoral.
there millions of rape and
And
incest
one
babies?
does not have to
Not sure.
abandon
No, because they
their
love to
faith
bring that up.
Yeah.
or deeply held
And
beliefs.
maybe she'll explain
to
it.
No, I'm the father of
government
4
and
daughters,
Donald Trump
and I don't
certainly
know
should
much
not
about
be
a bunch
telling
of
woman what
rape and
to do
incest babies
with
out there.
her
Just curious.
body.
Yeah,
I have
but you're not
talked
from
with
West
women
Virginia.
No, it must be a
around
woman's
our
body in
country.
West Virginia
You want to
that
talk about
fucking
this
Kamala
is what
Harris
people
knows.
wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot?
That a thing?
She didn't
No.
want that? Her husband didn't want
That happens, right?
A 12 or 13-year-old
It's been returned to the
survivor of
states,
incest
and every state
being
that's voted
forced to
on it
carry a
has been a
pregnancy
liberal
to
vote.
term?
Everyone. It's been
They don't
15
want
weeks
that.
or later.
But
And I
what
pledge
about
to
the
you,
woman going to
when
term in the
Congress
back seat of
passes
her
a bill
car?
to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law.
You had 50
But
years to do it.
understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages.
What?
I think the American
What?
people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom
see
to make
that baby.
decisions about one's own body,
the fuck out of here.
should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice
And she
President
is so
Harris.
thirsty.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came
Well,
to
I
your
won't
desk?
have to because, again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50 and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea. And how unfair that would have been, part of the reason they lost, to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D., and I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans.
Gotta answer that question, though.
They can never get
yes
this
or no.
approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about
Yes or
going
no.
to Congress. So wonderful. Let's go to Congress. Do it. But the fact is that for years they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is,
Does she know how
have to
much
travel
IVF
to
costs?
another state
I'm not
to
sure.
get
A
on
working
a plane
woman
sitting next to strangers,
Just making
to go and
making
get
her
the
ends
health
meet
care she needs.
to pay the $10,000 a month.
$15,000, yeah.
To do
Can't
it,
afford
and
that.
what you are
Six-
putting
I know,
her through
6 states
is
allow
unconscionable.
abortion
And
up
the
to the
people
moment
of America
birth.
have
by the
not.
way.
The majority
Six
of
states.
Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body, and that is why.
Listening
in
to
every
Kamala
state
Harris
where this
makes me
issue
wish
has been
I
on
was
the
aborted
ballot
late
in
term.
red and blue states,
About
both,
5 days ago.
the people
I could abort
of
you tonight
America
if
have
you
voted
want.
for freedom.
I mean, I
Vice
could do it,
President,
Rob.
Excuse me, I have
you
to
know?
respond.
pull
I could
this
abort
on.
your brother, too.
That's another lie.
Tommy O,
I have been a leader.
You down
on
for an
IVF
abortion?
Look at him,
with
dude.
religious
Are you against
fertilization.
women's
I could
rights?
abort that son of a
I
bitch
have been
tonight.
a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Ask her that.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that
Why
question?
don't you answer
That's
the
problem.
question, would you
because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the question, would you veto?
you could do abortions in the 7th month, the
They didn't
8th
mute the
month,
mic. They
the
didn't mute
9th
the mic.
month,
Not true.
and probably after birth.
Oh,
Just
listen to
look
the
at
moderator. Oh,
governor,
that's not
former
true. Is
governor
it
of
not?
Yeah.
Ask her.
Virginia.
Do you want to
The
murder a
governor
baby?
of
Ask
Virginia
her.
said we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration
Ain't
and
that a-
border
oh,
security.
yeah.
We know it's
I
an
mean,
issue
Mike
for
wasn't
muted during that
Republicans,
exchange.
Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root cause
called
of
border
migration
czar.
from Central America.
border
We know
czar.
that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill, which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border.
That
to
bill
help those folks who
codifies
are working there right now
1.5 million
overtime,
illegals
trying to do their
paroled into
job.
the United States every
It
year.
would have
Fuck
allowed
you.
us
Same.
to stem
5,000
the
a day.
flow of
Same bill.
fentanyl
Fuck
coming
you.
into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have
Did she
put
mean the
more
100,000
resources to
people that
allow us to
she killed with
prosecute
fentanyl?
Yeah.
transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone.
Man, she's just
called up
really
some
talking
folks in
about her
Congress
own
and said,
administration
"Kill the
now."
bill."
Yes.
And you know why?
What the fuck?
Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually
because
do
you let
something
20
really
million people
unusual,
into the
and I'm
country,
gonna
you
invite
stupid
you
bitch.
to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom.
Are you out of your
And I will tell you,
mind?
the one thing you will not
What does
hear
this
him
have to
talk
do with
about
immigration?
is you.
She's never been
You will
to
not
a
hear him talk
Trump
about
rally.
your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you
boy.
first,
Hey,
and I
make sure
pledge
to wink
you
at us,
that I
pumpkin.
will.
Yeah.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though,
No,
why
no,
did
no,
you
no,
try
no.
to kill that bill and successfully
Wind
so? That
turbines
would
and
have put
health and
thousands of additional
examination.
agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies
Big,
in the history of
beautiful rallies.
politics.
Yeah.
That's because
Beautiful
people want
rallies.
to take their
Beautiful
country
rallies.
back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs. The
There we
people
go.
that came in, they're eating
There we
the
go.
cats.
The
They're
cats.
They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
Oh,
I just
there
want
it
to
is.
clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims.
We've
of pets
seen the
being
pictures,
harmed
David.
or
We've seen 'em.
abused
Is that
by
right,
individuals.
Dickface?
We've
Is that-
seen
is
the
that what
pictures.
happened?
Community.
Don't believe your lying
television.
Let me
eyes.
just say here, this is the
People on
this is
television
a
say
clar-
my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that. and maybe that's a
You
good
took
thing
their
to say for
dog.
a
You
city
took
manager.
Jenny's
I'm not
cat.
taking this from
But the
television.
people
I'm
on
taking
took her
it from the
cat.
city
saying their
manager.
dog was
You ate it.
eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that.
Ah,
Vice
so
President Harris.
one
Oh, the
guy.
city manager said that.
City manager.
about
Yeah, he's
extreme.
legit.
Oh, there's the laugh.
there's the giggle.
MyBookie.com. That was one of the bets
in
tonight.
this election,
Half
I
hour
actually
in.
have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsements
McCain's dead.
of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney.
Oh my God.
And
I hate
if
Liz
you
Cheney.
want to really
Are you seriously
know
bringing up the fucking
inside
Cheney
track
family?
on who
On behalf
the
of an
former
Iraq
president
veteran, go
is, if
fuck
he didn't make
yourself.
it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense
No policy.
has said
No
the
policy,
nation, the
no-
Republic,
no
will never
answer on
survive
immigration.
I guess what you're getting into
another
is
Trump
the
term.
establishment doesn't like Donald
And
Trump.
I know
when
that
do
I
you
don't know
listen
anything
to
and I
this
have no
kind of
plan, but
rhetoric
he's dangerous.
when
That's the whole
issues
fucking
that
thing.
affect the
This is
American
boring.
people
Jenny got her
are
fucking
not
cat
being
eaten earlier,
addressed.
dude. This is what we're talking
but
about?
the
Clear in
issues,
this
but the issues,
election.
but the issues.
President
but
Trump
the
will give you a
issues,
quick
the
minute to
issues.
respond.
Yeah.
here.
God damn it, Tommy.
Thank you.
You're gonna eat the head off your
when I hear
dog
that-
when you
See,
get
I'm a
home.
different
Tommy, stop
kind of a
eating your
person.
dog.
I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They
You said
never
I fired most
one
of those
person.
people?
They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people whose were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper. He was no good. I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book. Because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they. But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to.
Oh,
as
I like
well.
this. Let's
President
hear
Trump,
this.
you call this the largest domestic deportation operation.
Yeah,
in
this is the
history of our
largest
country.
dick
You say
in
you would
fucking
use the
domestic
national
history.
guard
There it
to
is.
say if things get
That's
out
what
of
he
control.
should
No problem using
Yeah,
the
but
U.S.
before I get into that, I gotta tell you about this.
let me tell you about my hog.
Police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you
It's
believe
actually
that number
20.
is much higher.
20 million.
Take
Yeah.
us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this
Trebuchets,
country?
Yeah.
catapults.
It is much higher.
Bulldozers.
Because of them.
This is so easy
They
to do
allowed
that.
criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime
Dropped
in countries
82%.
all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in. And all over the world, crime is down. All over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually
Wrong.
coming down.
Wrong.
Is that right?
Is
that right? Mirror, you
Is that
fuck.
right, you
They
skinny
didn't
tie-wearing
include the worst
motherfucker?
cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud, just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think
That's
this
bullshit
is so
on Mirror's
rich,
part on that
coming
fucking
from
thing.
someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference.
Violent
has been
crime is up in
found
LA by
liable for sexual assault, and his
3%.
next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear, where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the
What about
page
immigration? Because that was the
on
actual
this
question.
Same old tired rhetoric.
Is she
and
legit
address
saying this right now?
The needs of the American people. Address what
The
we
needs
need
of the
to
many
do
outweigh the
about
needs
the
of the few.
housing shortage, which I have a plan for. Address what we must do to support our small businesses. Address bringing down the price of groceries.
But you
frankly,
did it.
the
You
American
did
people
that.
are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Really? Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand
That's
this
not what
is
it
someone
says.
who has openly said
stupid
he would
bitch.
For every
terminate,
president.
I'm quoting, terminate the
Every single
Constitution
president.
of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails.
Yeah.
Because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people
Vice
to
President
stop
Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy. It was a fake Russia investigation
We do have a lot
that
to get.
went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Oh,
Vice
cool. You got
President Harris,
shot.
in your last
Wait,
run
we
for
got a president who was
you
shot
said
in the
you wanted to
fucking
ban
face. But
fracking.
no, it's fine.
Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line.
Honest to
I
God,
know
can you
say
find
that
a more
your
vile
values
human
have not
being right
changed.
than her?
So then why have so
Which
many
one?
of your
The one on
policy
the right.
positions changed?
It doesn't matter.
So
They look identical.
my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking, because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States, and in fact,
She's on record
I was the
saying
tiebreaker
Literally on record
on
saying,
the
I'm gonna
Inflation
ban
Reduction
fracking.
Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce
If
our
anybody in
reliance
Pennsylvania
on
is
foreign
listening to this,
oil.
stop following
We have
me if you
had
believe this
the
bullshit.
largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid
Oh,
raised
Christ.
by a
That's the
hardworking
second
mother
time you've said that.
who worked and saved.
Frack
and
you.
was able to buy our first home when
That's
I was a
Battlestar
teenager.
Galactica, by the way.
Is it?
The
Saying
values
frack
I
instead of
bring
fucking.
to the
I've never
importance of
seen it,
homeownership,
so I don't
knowing
care.
not
I don't watch the
everybody got
make-em-ups.
handed
I don't watch the
$400
make-em-ups, Rob. Never
million
have, never
on a
will.
silver platter and then
Don't
filed
care.
bankruptcy
I
6
couldn't tell you about
times.
Star Wars 9
It's a
either.
value that I bring to my work.
She was the
to say we are
co-sponsor
going to
of the Green
work
New
with the
Deal.
private
Yeah.
sector and
Which
home
would have
builders
banned everything.
To increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather.
What?
And my
What does that have to do with anything?
What are you talking about?
My friend got raped. We have to get rid of
That is
fracking.
deeply grounded in the importance.
The fuck are you talking
standing
about?
up
There was
for
no
those who are
shit.
most vulnerable.
I was at my
work
stepfather's
that is about
friend's house,
protecting
and then
Social
I got
Security and
fracked.
Medicare
She looks
is
like a
based on
fucking horse to
long-standing
me.
work that I have done, protecting seniors
I
from
can't stop
scams.
saying that.
My
Seniors and scams.
values have not
And my values.
changed.
Jesus
and
fucking
what is
Christ.
important
Listen
is
to
that
this
there is a
fucking
president
cunt
who
of a woman.
actually brings values and a perspective.
There is a woman in the
that
room,
is
by the
about
way, over here.
lifting
She's fact
people
checking
up
us. So yeah,
and
we don't
not
give a
beating
fuck. She doesn't give a
people
fuck.
down.
There's
And
anybody who hates
name-calling.
feminism,
The
it's my
true
wife.
measure of the leader is the
Yeah, this wave she
leader
hates.
who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up.
for
I intend
God.
to be
Fucking God, are you
that
kidding me?
president.
Way
President Trump
down in
was official.
Alabama. I mean, we're about to get into some
I
MLK
wish I
shit
was.
for no
My father
reason.
was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many
can't spell
billions of
fraction without
dollars,
fraction.
many, many billions. And when people see it,
Many,
they are
many
even
billion.
surprised. So we don't have to
China.
talk about that.
It's a decent
Fracking,
point
she's
to
been
make
against it for
because
12
his
years.
dad gave him $2 million
defund the
in the early
police. She's
70s.
been
That's a lot of
against
money.
that forever.
Right?
She gave
People
all
win the
that
lottery
stuff
all the
up.
time and they're broke
Very
3 years
wrongly,
later.
very horribly.
to be
And
clear.
everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out. Wait a minute, I'm talking now.
Use the same line she used in 2020.
She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things
It's
that
still
nobody
on her
would ever
Twitter.
think
Still on her
of.
Twitter.
Now she
They
wants to
deny
do
it happened, and it's
transgender
still on her
aliens
Twitter.
or
Look at that
illegal aliens that are
conniving
in
fucking
prison.
cunt.
This
Just
is
saying
a
it didn't
radical
happen. It's
left
literally on her
liberal
Twitter page.
It's
that
still
would do
on her
this.
Twitter
She
account
wants
now.
to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish, one thing so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof.
National
They
average was
immediately let these
$2.15
guys
when he
go
left office.
to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out of. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar. But they take 400, 500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that we
for the
have to get to.
environment.
Stop cutting them off,
Thank
bitch.
you.
Nobody cares to hear you
Thank
talk.
We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which
Oh
of
my
course,
God.
is
my
a
God.
our
Are you
democracy
kidding
and the
me?
Here
rule
we
of
go.
Is this a
Here
real
we go.
question,
in a moment
Muir?
of crisis. Mr. President, on
real
January
moral
6th, you
crisis.
told your
Yeah.
supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be
Oh, my
right there with them.
fucking God.
The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office.
Which officers
you did
were
send
under
out tweets,
attack,
but it was more
you
than
piece
2
of
hours
shit?
before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer
Oh, shit.
that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border
What about
czar,
the $2
remember
billion
that.
and
She
30
was
people
the
killed
border
during the
czar.
George
She
Floyd
doesn't want
riots?
to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, "Oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet." That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America? They're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world. And crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
when
ask
are those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle? They went into Seattle. They
Well,
took
she
over
raised
a
money
big
for those
percentage
guys.
of the
I think
city
they're
of
good.
Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
you. You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes or no?
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know.
Bowser.
I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th.
Oh, God.
My
friend got my best friend from high school got raped on January 6th.
You know how many babies we had to kill to save the Capitol?
The United States
what a stupid
incited
bitch.
a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate
is she
our
gonna
nation's
cry?
capital.
I
On
hope
that day,
if she fucking cries, dude, I
would
would love it. I'll suck your dick live on air. I will suck your dick live on air, dude. If she cries,
president has
yes, I
been
will suck your dick,
indicted and
dude.
impeached for exactly
Your wife
that
is watching.
reason.
I will suck your dick live on air.
But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville.
My wife is watching.
Where there was
Everyone's
a mob
wife
of
is going to be
people
watching.
carrying tiki torches.
This is going to happen.
I will suck
your dick live on air. She's crying.
There were fine people on each side. Let's remember.
Oh, that's a fucking lie. That was already debunked.
Is that it? Is that it, Kamala? Is that it, Kamala?
All right, now we can hear from David Muir if he's going to fact check anybody on that side.
Everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was.
Hey, we're watching Kamala, you fucking
I say,
cunt.
we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back.
Going back.
It's time
I want to go
turn
back.
the page.
That's all I want to do is go back.
And if
I want
that
to go back
was
to
a
gas
bridge
prices,
too far
grocery
for you,
prices,
well, there is
housing
a
prices.
place
I want to go back to all of it. That's all I want to do.
Do
you want to
I
go
want to
back
fucking
to
dock
being
around this whole shit.
award?
I want to go back.
For country.
Why does nobody talk about the most famous and
and
popular president in history? Joe
and to
Biden, who
end
won
the chaos.
95 trillion votes.
And to end
Why does nobody talk about him
the
anymore?
approach that is about attacking the
'cause Kamala's
foundations
here.
of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath. If this and the outcome
Another
of this election is
debunked
not
lie.
Economic bloodbath.
Not did happen.
let's turn the page
You
on
said there would be a
this. Let's
bloodbath
not
on
go
Wall
back.
Street. You
Let's
stupid
chart
bitch.
A course
She doesn't
for
know what
the
Wall Street is.
future and not
yeah, probably
go
not.
backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this. You talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The President of the United
There you
States,
go.
you get him out of bed.
Yep.
You'll wake
There
him
it
up
is.
at
There it is.
4
There it
o'clock in
is.
the
All right.
afternoon. You'll say,
Fucking
come on,
finally.
come on down to
Anyway,
the
now
office.
let's
sign
put
a bill.
ABC in the middle of this
If
shit.
he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us.
Why? He
this
could
into focus.
sign that executive order tomorrow. That's true.
He can do it right
we
now.
literally
Mr.
just
President,
said
for 3.5
it on
years
yesterday's show.
after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say
sarcastically.
That.
You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it.
What are you, a fucking mood detector, you fucking bitch?
God damn it, dude.
Legit needs to punch this guy.
God, pull a sword out and fucking stab yourself.
The biggest cunt on TV. No doubt.
That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris,
boy, they cut him off.
The president there tonight, he said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker. So he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden.
Oh, yeah, that's what he said.
God,
that's what he just said.
Exactly what he just said, motherfucker.
He wasn't trying to obfuscate the point. He literally just said that, you fucking gaylord.
Just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that.
Never happened.
And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you.
I wonder
and they
if
say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did in fact lose that election.
Had their kitty with Kamala fucking Harris.
That perhaps
stupid fucking
we do
Biden
not have
administration.
in the candidate to my right the
On what
temperament
planet? Do you,
or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
What is she talking about?
I'll give you 1 minute.
She has no idea.
Let me just tell you about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man.
I hope he says Putin endorsed
he's a tough person, smart, Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country. He ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world.
And then the CIA blew it up.
Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president, but when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What
Zero.
you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her.
Oh, shit.
14 million votes. They threw
God
him out.
damn.
She got
Wow.
0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but
Mr.
I'm
President,
okay with it because
your time is
I
up.
think we're
Thank
going to
you.
do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now
Wow.
to Israel's war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris in December said, quote, Israel has a right to defend
He
itself, but
hates
you
her.
added,
That's
quote,
going to be the line of this
matters how.
entire
Saying
debate. I
international
guarantee you.
humanitarian law
He
must
hates
be
her.
respected. Israel
He hate
must
me.
do more to
Remember
protect
that?
innocent
Yeah.
civilians. You said
Old
that
school.
9 months
Trumps,
ago. Now
man.
an estimated
Trumps.
30,000
Hey,
Palestinians
Trumps.
are dead.
Trumps,
Nearly
man.
100 hostages remain.
I don't
Just
give a
last
fuck
week,
how many
Prime Minister
Palestinians are
Benjamin
dead.
Netanyahu said,
I
"There's not a
say
deal we're
Ryan
making."
Mills in the corner
President
laughs
Biden
to it,
has
and my
not been
wife
able to break through
pretends
the
not to laugh,
stalemate.
but she does
How
every
would
time I
you
say,
do it?
Trumps, man, Trumps.
Well, let's understand.
Yeah,
how
she's
we
a
got
real
here.
bitch.
On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis. Many of them young people who were simply attending a concert.
This isn't a
Women
fucking
were
term
horribly
paper in
raped.
college. Get to the
And
point,
so,
bitch.
absolutely. I said then, I say now. Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Because it is also true, far too many
What the fuck is she
innocent
talking about right now?
Palestinians have been killed.
What has been
Children,
unburdened
mothers.
by what can
What we
can't
know
be
is
unburdened.
that
between
this war must
between
end.
you and me.
The
It
war must end,
win,
and the burden of the burden, and
immediately,
the unsettling
and
of
the
the
way it will
burden.
end is we need a
What are you gonna do about it,
ceasefire deal, and we need the
I don't know, I'd
hostages
like to unburden
out.
my fucking dick.
And
into
so
her,
we
though.
will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also
Hey.
understanding that we must chart a
Man.
course for a two-state
Powerful women,
solution.
dude. You know, you got to get in
Yeah,
there.
I mean, I
in
guess.
that
You
wouldn't fuck,
solution,
Margaret Thatcher?
there must
No.
be
Today?
No, she's
security
dead.
for the Israeli
Destroying her.
people
Dead.
and Israel,
Oh,
and
I
an
know. Yeah,
equal
even that.
measure
Yeah,
for the
she's dead.
Palestinians.
Nailed it.
Yeah, I'm not
But
going
the
to fuck a
one thing I will
hologram either.
Rolling her over is
always-
gonna be weird, but I got
will
this.
always give
Yeah,
Israel the
you're a
ability to
Navy
defend
guy.
itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and
What-
any
what is
threat
she
that
saying? No
Iran
shit.
and
Like
its
right now, what is
proxies
she saying?
Pose to Israel. But we
She's
must
just trying
have
to
a
prove she
two-state
knows what's
solution
happening.
where we can rebuild
I know
Gaza,
Iran has
where
people.
the Palestinians have security,
Rebuild Gaza.
self-determination,
We can
and
rebuild
the dignity they
Gaza.
so rightly deserve.
Nope. No.
President
Nope.
Trump,
'Cause
how
those
would
fucking
you negotiate
animals
with
exactly
Iran
deserve it.
They're ready for
and
it.
also Hamas
Fuck
in order
them.
to get
They're
the
ready for a
hostages
By the way,
McDonald's.
there is no
and prevent the killing of
Palestine.
more innocent
It's not even a
civilians in
country.
Gaza.
Doesn't
Fuck
exist.
those
If I were
people.
president,
Baby
it would have
rats
never
don't grow up to be
started.
bunny rabbits.
If I were
Fuck them.
president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up, far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party. Of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror. Horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation. And now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look
That's
at
an
what's
absolute
happening
fact.
That is
with
actually,
Iran was
yes.
broke,
and
correct.
Yemen.
And now
Look at
Hamas,
what's going
Hezbollah,
on in the
Houthi are
Middle
going
East.
fucking
This
apeshit.
would have
And that's how
never
this got
happened.
funded.
I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
This is all
Vice
true.
President
Yes.
Harris
All
says
true.
you hate
All
Israel.
true.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that.
That was the point
He's
of him
trying
saying
to,
she hates
again,
Israel, to get her to say
and
she loves it.
Correct.
From
She
the
loses
reality,
votes.
And
which
Michigan.
Is, it is
Michigan.
very well known.
Did Kamala just say,
that
"I love them
Donald
Jews"?
Trump is
She does.
weak
Yeah,
and
she
wrong
loves the
on
Jews.
national security and foreign policy.
She didn't
It
say
is
Jews, she said
well known
Israel.
that
I think
he
she loves the
admires
Jews.
That's
dictators,
Zionist.
wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine.
She's losing her mind right now.
It is well
Yeah.
known that he said when
All he has to
Russia
say
went
is
into
Putin
Ukraine,
endorsed her,
it
and
was
I'm waiting for this
brilliant.
rebuttal.
He's going to.
Oh, it's
It is
coming. It's
well
coming
known
right
that
now.
he
It's
exchanged
coming right now.
love
Say it.
letters
Look at the
with
stupid
Kim
look
Vladimir
on his
Putin
face.
did
Say
endorse
it.
Kamala Harris.
And it is
You know he's about to say
absolutely
something.
well
It's
known
coming. Watch.
that these dictators and autocrats are
You know he's
rooting
about to say something.
for you
Oh, he's
to
gonna
be
destroy her
president
right
again
now.
because they're so clear. They can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a
Just say the
disgrace.
Putin line. Just say Putin
That is
endorsed you.
why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on
Vice
national
President
security,
Harris.
including
I mean,
the
he
importance
wasn't wrong
of
on anything
upholding
national
and
security-wise.
respecting
Nope.
in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
They're the ones, and she's the one that caused it, that's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week.
There we go.
There it is.
Thank you.
And
There
I
it
think
is.
he meant it because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to
The
Germany?
reason
and
they
all over
fought in
Europe?
Afghanistan in the
Because they're
1960s
weak
and
and
70s.
they're ineffective.
Like,
And
holy
Biden,
shit,
by
this
the
is
way,
50
paid
years
a
worth
lot
of
of
shit
money.
here.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
Oh, do you? Yeah. You do now? You got a lot of issues to get
Talk
to
more
now?
about abortion,
right
you
here
fucking
in Philadelphia.
All right, we're going to commercial break. If you wouldn't mind turning that down for a second here. So, look, we are exactly an hour into this debate right now. Trump stayed on policy for the most part. Abortion obviously was going to be a big topic that he probably wasn't going to win. I think he did a decent enough job explaining it there. Dan, you actually looked it up. So it was 6 states that actually approve abortion up until the 9th month?
Yes.
Okay. And then Rob, as far as policy is concerned, he's pretty much stayed on topic throughout. And I'm pretty shocked, to be honest with you.
No, so as am I. I mean, he was on point with everything, and even bringing up the point about Putin. He endorsed you.
Yep.
Everything he said has been true.
I think he's been laying traps for her, to be honest.
It's what it feels like, where it's like, hey, here's this little one. I know this is going to come back to me, and then boom, I'll get you. Boom, I'll get you.
Just keep in mind, he fancies himself like a fucking. He's a mover. Yeah, he's a shaker. He's a fucking chess player. Whether he is or not doesn't matter. He thinks that. It's easy to see him doing it right now.
But here's the wild thing to me is she was an actual prosecutor for years and years and years in California. I lived there during that time period.
But was she a litigator?
But exactly, and that's what I'm shocked about.
Nobody
is
knows.
why.
Nobody knows.
But why you would allow yourself to be trapped in some of these answers that you're getting trapped into tonight?
Because she doesn't know what the fuck she's doing. She's made her career on being a woman of color and sucking the dick of everyone ahead of her. And I wish I was lying. That's what she's done.
Right.
So she can't suck a dick tonight on TV.
You're talking about Willie Brown.
We'll see.
Yeah, Dan's hoping, obviously. He said so
Not-
earlier. He
not-
likes women in power.
Not mine necessarily, but I would like to watch.
Yeah. No, I mean, and looking at her teeth, I mean, she could S the D. I'm just saying that she didn't get there because she's fucking good at anything.
Yeah.
And even when her old bosses say, yeah, the reason she's here is because she sucked the dick.
Right.
She legit has done that her entire career. And all of a sudden, she's this famous woman of color because the Democrats decide they need this. And when policy is discussed, Donald Trump knows what the fuck he's talking about. This is embarrassing to watch the head of the Democrat Party do this. Meanwhile, where's Joe Biden right now?
Who knows? Chances are he's not awake right now. But in all sincerity, we got 30 minutes left in this. If Trump is able to run out the clock, I think he wins. And then let me ask the both of you this, and I'll start with you, D'Anthony. Do they even have a second debate?
No.
No, she won't agree to another one.
No, she won't. And Kamala Harris wins tonight, by the way.
I think she's going to ask for one. What do you mean Kamala Harris is going to win tonight?
She wins because she didn't fall off the fucking stage.
Oh, fall off the stage tonight. But is that a win? Like,
yeah, well, wait and see.
We'll see how the rest goes here. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean a win is not a win necessarily. It's what the stupid fucking media will tell the stupid.
Oh, gotcha. That she just stayed alive and made it through.
They're going to say Kamala Harris didn't go up and blow her brains out, so she's obviously the next president.
And that's what they were hoping for out of Biden.
And the dumbass American public will fall for this shit.
It's hard to say if she's wearing a diaper.
You don't think so?
It's tough to say. Like, if you're watching this, it's obviously clear to me, at least, like what's going on as far as policy is concerned and what the visions for the future are. I haven't heard that from her, so I don't really understand.
Well, that's not going to be how they determine who wins.
All the Democrats wanted to see tonight was Kamala Harris to show up and not fucking die.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. So they're going to say tomorrow, oh my God, the best debate, amazing.
Press play.
That's it.
Yep.
That's it. That's all that's happening. Donald Trump, obviously, if he destroys this debate, he wins this debate. This is better for the country, and Donald Trump doesn't fit in the narrative of what the elites want. Kamala Harris will show up being the least popular presidential candidate in history, and here she shows up. And they're going to talk about her teeth. Watch.
Well,
I'm just telling you.
We'll see. I mean, look, Ozempic and nice teeth do a lot for a lot of people, but I'm not sure for tonight. Jesse, are we all caught up here and we're easy squeezies on all of it? Fantastic. Ryan Mills, we got enough hard AF seltzer to get through this last half hour. I'm as a Trump supporter, I'm optimistic. And I'm hopeful. This has been a great hour so far.
It's been fine. It's really, he's only talking to 15% of the country because everybody else has made their mind up. But can you come down here and click that little live
Yes,
thing?
it's you're not caught up yet.
It's next to the little microphone thing on the left, on the speaker thing on the click live. Okay, if it's not doing anything, then it's live again.
There you go.
Yeah, I think she's going to be declared the winner no matter what.
Oh no, 100%.
By the media?
Yeah.
Okay, Yes, I agree. And then if you can turn up the volume for the listeners, greatly appreciate it. We are in a hotel in the middle of Dallas here, so excellent job. Thank you.
You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly, people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look, we're in for 250 billion or more because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less.
3 weeks ago,
Biden
Germany
and
stopped
you
funding Ukraine.
Don't
Did
have
they really?
the courage to
Biggest
ask
country in Europe.
like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me.
Your
they don't
president,
respect
your
Biden.
boy.
How would you respect him?
Your boy.
Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. Nice. If I win, when I'm president-elect, And what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin,
Do you believe that, Rob?
after I left,
You don't have to ask rhetorically. Bush was in office for 8 years. Russia invaded Crimea, right? And then Georgia under Obama. Under Trump, crickets, and then as soon as Biden gets in, he invades fucking Ukraine.
Well, it wasn't.
It's not even a question.
Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse. And it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David.
When he shows
We're
up
playing
for
with
these
World
people,
War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's. Where is our president?
Legit.
We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here,
threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
Your time is up. Just to clarify the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war, yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal.
What is winning the war?
Exactly.
What the fuck are you talking about?
From being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President
David
Harris.
Muir's
I wanna
never
get
been
your
in a
thoughts
fucking war.
on,
Maybe you should shut the fuck
David
up.
Muir doesn't
in this moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me.
Oh, what?
I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that
Little
this war
Freudian
would
slip
be
there,
over
right?
Yeah,
because
he's
he
still
would just give it
president.
up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change
Yeah, that worked
territorial
out.
boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms.
There was a
which
peace
is the
deal in
importance
place
of sovereignty
2
and
weeks before
territorial
the
integrity.
thing happened.
And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank.
And they still
to
invaded,
Poland
right?
and Romania.
You fucking idiot.
And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president.
Because they stopped paying.
Understand
They
the
stopped paying.
importance of the greatest
NATO spent
military
less than
alliance the world
half
has ever known, which is NATO.
Than the United
And what we
States
have
on
done
Ukraine. Like, fuck off.
to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Oh, my God.
Oh, boy.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour.
Yeah, why can't he respond to it?
Yeah, what the fuck, dude?
Please, I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would
God,
be sitting
David
in
Muir, you
Moscow,
fucking cunt,
and he
man.
wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow,
Tighten
much
that
happier than
bitch
he is
up.
right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin.
There's no
And
way
she
Putin
did.
is invading a
And the war
NATO
started
country, by
3
the way.
days later.
That would
And that's the
invoke
kind of
Article
talent
5,
we
and we
have
would
with
immediately
her.
have to
She's
invade
worse than
Russia.
Biden. In my
Like, shut the
opinion, I
fuck
think he's
up,
the worst
man.
president in the history of our country. She
Mutually
goes
assured
down as the
destruction
worst
has worked
vice president
for
in the history of our country. But let me tell you
80
something.
years?
She is a
80 years,
horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader.
Cool, but did you meet with Putin? That's what he asked.
Rules and norms.
That was the
As a
question.
leader who shows strength, understanding that
Did
the
you meet with
alliances we
Vladimir
have
Putin?
around
Yes.
the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy.
Ukraine's not our friend.
That is
No.
very much
No,
what
fuck
is at
Ukraine
stake
too, by
here.
the way.
The President of the United States is commander-in-chief, and the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we
What is
stand
she talking?
up for
Word
our
salad.
principles and not sell
Say
them
something.
for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do
Literally
want to talk
cut her
about
off.
Afghanistan. It came up in the
idiot.
first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Stoltenberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen. He's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you.
President
Otherwise,
Trump.
we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate. And
All right, well, at
witnessed
least they're going to
a poignant
Afghanistan
moment
here.
today
Here
on
we
Capitol
go.
Hill,
Let's-
honoring the
let's hear it.
soldiers
I wanna
who
hear
died
this.
in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Yeah,
I do
13
want to ask you,
Chaotic withdrawal. At least he said
do
that.
you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day.
We're
we were
sending
paying for that.
$90 million a week
And
to the
as
fucking
a
Wow, you
Taliban.
there's
stupid
not
fucking
one
cunt.
member
We're
of the
sending
United
$90
States
million a week
military
to the
who is
Taliban.
in
We accidentally
active
sent them
duty
$250
in a combat
billion.
zone in any war zone
God
around the
damn
world,
it,
first
man.
time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this, and the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president, invited them to Camp David
She's lost
because
now.
he does
she's
not
she's fucking
again
lost.
Trying to find it.
appreciate the role and responsibility
Dude,
of the
dude,
President
dude,
of the
dude,
United
dude, dude,
States
dude.
to be Commander-in-Chief with a level of respect.
What
And
is
this
she
gets back
talking
to
about?
the
Don't know.
point of how
Oh
he
my
has
God.
consistently
Jesus.
disparaged
It's
and demeaned
embarrassing.
members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the
9/11.
United States of
What
America
is
around
this?
the world.
Vice
What
President
the-
Harris,
the
thank you.
fuck
for
are you
your
America
response
and the
to her
flag
saying
and
you began the
9/11.
Yeah,
negotiations
thank
with
you.
the Taliban.
So, if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement.
Figure that out, Abdul. You got to figure that out, Abdul.
It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, it was, we were getting out. We would have been out faster than
That might be the greatest thing I've ever heard.
You got to figure that out, Abdul.
And we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment we had. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do. And these people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics.
He's on fire tonight.
Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President
tonight. He's in his
quote,
fucking
I didn't
bag.
know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black.
Oh, is he
and
going
now
to
she
bring up
wants to
the
be
accent
known as
here?
Black. I want to ask a bigger picture
Hey,
question
man.
here tonight.
Hey,
Why
Trump.
do you believe it's
Hey,
appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
Trump sounds like Clumps, right?
I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words, so I'm asking.
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Everyone was okay with me. That's up to her.
Holy shit, fuck
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
Yeah. Hey,
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have
tragedy.
someone
Tragedy.
who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race
She wants to be
divide the
black,
American
she puts
people.
out.
You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us,
Figure
and
it out,
especially by
Abdul.
race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was land. He owned land. He owned buildings, and he
What
was
the fuck is she
investigated
talking about?
because he refused to rent property to black families.
Oh, God. You think
Let's
Donald
remember,
Trump...
this is the same
What?
I don't give a
individual
fuck. He just gives a
who
fuck about
took
money.
out a full
That's all he
page
cares.
ad in the New York
Black people
Times
love Donald
Yes.
Trump, by the way.
calling for the execution
We've been finding this
of
out with Street
5
Gonzo.
young
White people
black
are
and
afraid to say they
Latino
like
boys
Trump.
who
Black
were
people love
innocent,
Trump.
the Central
Everywhere
Park
we go.
5 took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States.
Oh, you mean
And I
Biden?
think the American
Yeah.
people want
Biden.
want better than this. Want someone who understands, as I do, I travel our country. We see
Just
in
not the
each
border.
other
It's not the
a
border.
friend.
You stay away
We
from that
see-
I ain't
dirty
going down there.
area.
Hell no.
We don't
Hell
want
no.
a
Hey,
leader who
hey,
is
Trump,
constantly
Trump,
trying
ain't
to
going
have
no border,
Americans
Trump.
point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me,
What is she fucking
can
talking
we please
about?
just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people?
Legitimately saying
Knowing that
nothing right now.
regardless
Nothing.
of people's
This is the
color
party of
or
joy.
the
Just
language
running
their
the clock
grandmothers
out.
speak,
Yep.
we
So
all
happy.
have
God.
the same dreams and aspirations.
This is
and
the
want
end of
president
a
who
1,000-word
invests
essay
in those,
in
not
high
in
school.
hate and division.
But the dreams and the
Vice President
dreams.
Harris.
And the dreams.
President Trump, this is now your
Dreams.
third time.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park 5, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad, and she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time is up, Lindsay.
I want to just respond briefly.
Let's hear it, Kamala.
Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer
What are you
is
doing,
a
a
new
type
generation
5 at the
of
comedy
leadership for our
store now?
country. One who
You know, the thing about
believes
airplane food.
in what is possible. One who brings a sense of optimism
what's up with
about
that?
what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan.
The plans. Yep.
To give
hear the
startup
plan.
businesses $50,000 tax deduction.
Sure.
To pursue their ambitions, their innovation,
Okay.
their
I
ideas.
never got that.
Their hard
I never
work.
got the
I have
50K.
a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life to help you.
Oh, so now
in
it's just
that
for the
most
first
critical
year.
stage
So instead of
of
I have a
development,
dream, it's I have a plan.
I have money
that
for
is
you.
about
I have a
allowing
plan.
people to be able to pursue.
Do you
what
hear
has
that
been fleeting
point,
in
though?
terms
The
of
child tax
American
credit is
dream
just for the
by
first year
offering
of the kid's
a
life?
help
Just for the
with down
first year.
payment of
Once the kid is 2.
Well, we can kill
down
him after
payment
that.
assistance
Yeah,
for
we
the
don't care
first-time
after
home
that.
It's women's
buyers.
health care.
That's the kind of conversation I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name-calling. Let's turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's turn
Trump,
back
we
to
have
policy.
to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy,
She has
please.
a plan
Policy,
to
there you go.
defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
she
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay. Thank
That's
you, Mr.
what her
President.
plan is until just recently.
I just need
Lindsay,
to
go ahead.
respond
President
because
Trump-
no, the
President
former
Trump-
president has
No,
said
I'm
something
sorry.
twice that I need to
No,
respond to.
I'm sorry. We're
I just
going
need
to
to
move
respond
on, Vice
one
President
time
Harris.
to what he
President
has said
Trump,
multiple
this
it's a
is
black on
now
black
your
crime now.
third
We got a
time
black on black crime now.
President, you have long
Hey,
vowed
man.
to
Hey,
repeal
Trumps.
and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month, you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the
I'm still
Democrats
shaken
came
up by the black
they
on
wouldn't
black
vote
crime.
for it.
No.
I
Guys.
had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in this administration.
men.
We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones, too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private health care options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I
They
just
want
need to
to
respond
give
to a
government
previous
more
point
power.
that the
Fuck
former
no.
president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away, Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So
You
stop
literally
with
want to
the
ban
continuous lying about this
AR-15s,
stuff.
and you can pry them out
As
of
it
my
relates to the
fucking
Affordable
cold
Care
dead
Act,
hands, you
understand,
cunt.
let-
No, but
just
I
look
think
at
that's
the history
important
to know where
because
people
the
stand.
Democratic
When
voters
Donald
always
Trump
want
was
to take away
president,
guns, and now she just
60
said,
times
I fucking
he
own a
tried to
gun, and
get rid
so
of
does
the
Tim
Affordable
Walz.
Care Act.
That's the first
60
time
times.
anybody's ever
I was
said
a
that.
senator
The only gun
at the
Tim
time
Walz owns
when I
is
will
probably like a
never
caulking
forget
gun
the
that he uses to
early
shoot
morning
lube into his
hours
boyfriend's ass.
when
A little
it was
boot gun,
up for vote
dude.
in the
He's got a
United
little
States
boot
Senate.
gun
That
for
dude's
his
chugs-
boyfriend,
John
Jeremy.
He
McCain.
chugs dongs.
I
like
got a
he's
little
walking his
boot
job.
gun in case
Marriage.
Jeremy gets out of line. I gotta shoot Jeremy.
You don't like him, you said at the time, because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night. Walked
John
onto
McCain
the
is a
Senate
piece of
floor
shit.
and said, no, you don't.
Do you love John McCain?
No, you don't.
Turn
No,
your
you
mic
don't
on.
get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable
Roll
Care
John
Act has
McCain
done
over
is
and fuck him in his
eliminate
ass.
the ability
He's a fucking
of
pussy.
insurance companies to deny people
Literally,
with
he
pre-existing
gave up his
conditions.
guys in the
I don't
Hannah
have to
Hill. He
tell
was there for a
people
year.
watching tonight,
Fuck
you
John
remember what that was
McCain.
like?
Fuck that entire family.
Remember when an
Literally put me on
insurance
record.
company could
Fuck
deny
him.
if a child
And
had
fuck every
asthma,
Democrat that
if
brings
someone
him
was
up. John
a breast
McCain.
cancer
No, John
survivor,
McCain was a
if
piece of
if a
shit.
grandparent
John McCain
had
was the reason that
diabetes,
USS Forrestal
and
caught on
thankfully,
fire. That
as I've been
motherfucker
vice
got
president,
he shot
and we,
off
over the
a
last
missile
4
for
years,
no
have
reason.
strengthened
That
the
cocky
Affordable Care
fucking
Act.
cunt
We have allowed
started
for the
that
first
fire,
time
killed a
Medicare
bunch-
to negotiate
fuck
drug
them.
prices
And fuck you,
on behalf
Kamala
of
Harris.
you, the American
Kamala.
people. Donald Trump
Put
said
me
he
on
was going to
record,
allow
by the way.
Medicare to negotiate
No, you are. You
drug
definitely are.
Thank you.
prices.
Definitely
He
are.
never did.
No,
We
I
did.
legit don't give
And
a
now
fuck.
we
Yeah,
have
yeah.
capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just
Why?
a privilege of those who
It's
can
not a right,
afford it.
by the way.
And the plan has to
Neither is
be
housing.
to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get
You
rid of
you
it.
have the right
Pass it
to
through laws in
Remain
terms of where
silent,
Donald Trump
bitch.
stands on that.
I want to move to an
Yeah, the
issue
right-
that's
the-
important
to-
for a
to-
lot
made a
of
mistake.
Pursuit.
The pursuit of
Number one,
happiness. That's it.
John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to give.
President
People
Trump-
are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank
It's
you. We have
absolutely
another
true.
issue
Yes, that
we'd
is
like
true.
to
Everybody
get to
I know in the
that's important for a
UK
number of
goes out of
Americans,
country for all their
particularly
prescriptions
older
now.
voters,
I have
and
friends
that's
that live there that
climate
moved to the United
change.
States
President
just
Trump,
for
with
healthcare,
regard to
even
the
though ours
environment, you
sucks.
said
Yeah,
that
but
we
Kamala
have to have
Harris says,
clean air and clean
no.
water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change
but
an
how about this?
existential threat.
Trumps.
The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate
this bitch
change?
have a
And Vice
mustache?
President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute
No,
for
she
you
got
each.
rid of it.
Well, the former president
nom.
had said the climate change is a hoax.
It is.
And
Well,
what we know is that it is
1000%
very
hoax.
real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences,
Okay.
who now is
How many-
being
which one?
denied
Where?
health insurance,
How
is
many,
being
how many
jacked up.
states have
You
had
ask
their
anybody
hottest
who has
day on
been,
record in the last 100
the
years?
victim
Guess.
of what
Even
that
Texas
means in
was
terms
cooler
of
this year, and I
losing their
hate
homes,
Texas.
Stop.
Having
Guess,
nowhere
Rob.
to go. We know
There's
that
50
we
states.
can
How many of them have
actually
had their
deal with
hottest
this
day on
issue. The
record in the
young
last
people of
100
America
years?
care
I'd say zero.
deeply about
7.
this issue.
7 have.
And
In
I'm
100
proud that
years.
as vice president over the last
Fuck
4
off.
years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also
You mean the Green New Deal,
increased
otherwise
domestic
known as
gas
the Inflation
production
Reduction Act,
to
right?
historic
Which
levels.
reduced inflation.
We have
Yeah.
created over 800,000
Trump.
new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice
But if you
president.
consider this,
we
Trump.
have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing
what about
in
nuclear? Are they gonna bring that up?
American-made products,
I don't think so.
American
Nuclear's
automobiles.
emission-free.
Trump
it
will.
includes growing what we can
got
do
2 minutes
around
left.
American
Fucking better.
manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President
Oh,
Harris,
boy.
thank
I mean, you guys
Didn't happen
closed
under
power
Donald Trump.
plants.
Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these
Love when he says
massive
China. I
plants,
miss
and
that.
they think
I
they're
miss
going
it
to
so
sell their
much.
cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. but we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million?
10% for the big guy.
For the
This
big
is
guy.
a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
You're
We'll
welcome,
be right back
bitch.
with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate.
And Trump's, man, Trump's.
We'll be right back with Trump's.
So I was unaware that they were going to come back with closing statements. They didn't do that in the first debate. They're clearly going to do it in this one. What do you think they should do for the closing statements? Dan, we'll start with you.
I think he should just say the N-word the entire time.
Probably not a good idea.
For 90 straight seconds.
Probably not a great idea.
After another.
No.
And be like, oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Is this on? Is this on?
Yeah, definitely not
I'm
that.
going to disagree with that.
Yeah, that's a hard
How
disagree with that
funny
tonight.
Would that be though if Trump just comes out legit?
No,
legit, like
no, not going to happen tonight.
No, he should just reiterate all the things that that people can feel. Stay away from the ephemeral or the debate stuff and just say 22% inflation, Afghanistan, fucking Ukraine, Israel, they fucked up literally everything they've done. There's 10 to 20 million people in the country that don't belong here. They're up there eating geese and shooting down bald eagles and shit. Like, fuck off, dude. Just stick to that stuff. There's no reason to get too deep in.
Well, let me ask you this: was there something that he missed tonight that you think he should bring up in the closing statements, Rob?
I don't think there's anything that
Nuclear.
I think
they didn't really give him time for that debate.
No.
Donald Trump actually knows what's actually happening with the world. Nuclear weapons are not the most potent things that we have. However, the reason that China has not quite invaded Taiwan is, and Donald Trump's one of the reasons, because Xi Jinping knows goddamn well that Trump's coming back. That's why they haven't fucked with Taiwan yet, but they will.
I agree.
If Kamala fucking Harris gets in there, I swear to God, we're going back to war. And it's not that we can't win it. It's just we're at a point right now where these fucking liberals have convinced us we're not smart enough to win it, which we can. But it's coming. And Kamala Harris is proof. So is that bitch on ABC right now. The whole Mr. President, Mr. President, Mr.
Right.
That's part of the problem. And we need look. And people have told me all the time, like, well, I don't like Donald Trump. Fine. I don't care if you don't like Donald Trump. He's a great leader, and we don't need the president to be a nice guy
Or to be liked.
Yeah.
That's the same way that I feel. Where
fuck liking him.
But meeting him a few times in person, I can genuinely say this: he treats America like a business, and a business has got to be firm but fair.
What is wrong with that? I'm convinced. Well, I went to dinner at the White House with my wife.
Yeah, you've had dinner with him and Melania.
And I'm telling you that Donald Trump hit on my wife in front of me, and I was fine with that. Because we both understood Melania's hot, Jessica's hot. I will fight you. Let's have this chicken.
But was the chicken in Springfield, Ohio? I just wanted, was it in Springfield, Ohio? Was it in a lake, or where did you get the chicken? I just want to know where you guys got the chicken.
Yeah, but the point I'm making, though, is that Donald Trump will get in the office, and that's what he does. And
it's fun. It's in a laughable way. It's in an affable way, and it's fun.
Let me tell you the reason I'm voting for Donald Trump. Let me tell you right now, because I want you to have a better life. I want you to have a better life. I want you to have a better life. Donald Trump will get you a better life. Kamala Harris will fuck you.
Yeah.
Seriously. Kamala Harris is not Kamala Harris. She's working for the fucking machine. Donald Trump is the one going in there to prove what's going on. And he'll bring Elon Musk in, and he'll get rid of the federal government. That's what's happening. And I'm watching it. That's the whole reason I'm excited about this, because the entire establishment hates Donald Trump. They hate you, by the way. They hate me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They love me.
No, well,
Oh,
they loved you on J6.
Yeah.
They don't love you the rest of the time.
I'm like,
yeah, you were a threat to democracy, Dan.
And then Rob, back to your point,
hope
like
so.
if I went to dinner with Trump with my wife and he didn't hit on her, I think she would be pissed off about it.
I
you
would.
know, and be
Yeah,
like, well,
yeah,
she's lost
Jess,
it.
I got to make a call.
She's lost
like,
it.
He's definitely gonna hit on you. If you don't mind. If you don't mind. Yeah.
We hope. We're both of us are hoping.
Hey,
you know.
to be honest, in those genes, he should, might not.
Yes.
Whatever.
Yes. But we'll see what happens when he gets back in because we're friends and we're going back there, baby. So we'll see. But as a Trump supporter, 95 minutes in, going to the closing statements now, I think he's done a pretty goddamn good job tonight. Like I'm actually shocked.
He's done a great job because he's stuck to policy.
Yes.
However, when we see this tomorrow, Kamala Harris won.
Well, but
Because
to the media,
she showed up and didn't shit.
but
on her jeans.
to everybody else who's watching, if you're voting for policy and everything that's going on, it's hard to say
we're
that Trump
gonna
lost
see how
this.
they
Yeah, and then if you'll turn this back up,
He needs to hammer home how much
Closing
worse
statements
everybody's
and
I
voting.
agree, and we'll see that in the closing statements here.
Economy,
So I think you've
immigration.
heard
Yep.
tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future,
She's running the
and
clock
the other
out.
that
This
is
is
focused on the past,
1,000%.
and an attempt to take us
She's
backward.
been coached.
unburdened
So
by
But
what
we're
is
not
burden.
going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart
I
a
have
new
nothing in
way
common with you.
forward. And
Scientist
a vision of
mom,
that includes
Berkeley
having a
professor
plan,
dad.
understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy.
That phrase means
investing
nothing.
in
Nothing.
small businesses,
It's the fifth
in
time
new
she said it tonight.
families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks
What,
a
has she got a
break and bringing
checklist
down
of
the cost
pandering
of
to
living.
do?
I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect
And
that
the
we so
flag
rightly
and
deserve,
rights and
including
9/11, God
respecting
damn it.
our
Bald eagles.
military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the
What?
world.
What
I
the
will be a
fuck?
president that will
With a
protect
bunch of
our
fucking
fundamental
trannies running
rights and
around?
freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and
So
not have
kill
her
babies,
government tell her what
trannies
to
in the
do.
military. What
I'll
else?
tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor,
Just say you've never had a
I
real
never
job.
asked
Yeah.
You
a
stupid
victim
bitch.
How many
or a
Ds
witness,
have you
are you a
asked?
Republican or a Democrat?
Does that
The only thing
a
I ever
brag?
asked them,
I've never had a
are you
real job
okay?
my fucking life. Bunch of
And that's
poor
the kind
queers.
of president
Hell
we
yeah.
need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans.
Hey, man.
And focus
Trumps.
on what we
Trumps.
can do over the
Trumps,
next 10
man.
and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris.
That's a lot of
thank
hand
you.
movement to have
President
not
Trump.
have said a goddamn thing.
So
Yeah.
she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years.
Great answer.
They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack. We're not going to take fossil fuel. We're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants.
Nuclear.
We're not
Say
ready
it.
for it. We can't sacrifice
Germany had 6 nuclear
our
plants.
country
They got rid of
for the
5.
sake of bad
Now they're
vision.
buying
But I
liquid
just
natural
ask one
gas
simple
from Russia.
question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over
We
the
all
world.
hang
They
out.
don't understand what happened to us as a nation.
All
We're
my
not
rowdy
a
friends
leader.
is coming
We
over
don't have
tonight.
any
Hell yeah,
idea
brother.
What's going on? We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center.
Just let out one.
Hey,
man. Hey, Trump.
Watching here in the U.S. and
Thank you, Trump.
From all of us here at ABC News. Good night.
Look at the forehead
Do you
on that
know how to turn that off?
Yeah.
Jesse?
No. Don't turn this off.
Well, not off, I just
Wait
turn
for
it
these
down.
commentators, because I want to see if Rob is correct now. This is what we did after the last debate, by the way. We left it going to see what the reaction was from the actual media.
Well, we knew it was going to be last.
Well, last time was on CNN, so we left it on. We'll leave it on ABC right now, and we'll see what their actual opinions are.
That was quite a debate, and I'm Jonathan Carl.
Turn this back up.
Of course, Mary
That
Bruce
was quite a
and Rachel
debate.
Scott.
Quite a debate.
Our reporters
And as a man who
across the
can't
news
describe
division
what a
have been
vagina feels
updating
like,
our
I'm going to
live
tell you what
blog,
I think.
I think
looking
it's
at
quite a
some of
debate.
the allegations made back and forth, doing fact checks. You can find all of that on abcnews.com. But I would like to replay the moment at the very start of this debate.
Okay, so where are they going to go?
Because it was quite a moment. The handshake.
And handshake. What was with the handshake?
Have a good debate. Thank you.
I mean,
Welcome
quite a
to you
moment.
both.
First of all, because we hadn't seen a handshake.
Why are you fucking kidding
We
me?
hadn't seen a handshake.
Well, she hasn't been in public.
And
Yes, she
not, I mean,
did.
not only did she
Immediately.
initiate it, she walked over to him and sought him out, put the hands out.
Yeah, that's
and also
right.
made
You
the
walk
first
to the
move.
king, baby. You don't fucking.
No, you don't. No.
Yeah.
Like everybody comes to you when you're in
So more
charge.
at the bottom line.
You show up to the fucking
I
king.
think clearly what Kamala Harris wanted to do was be the candidate of hope, the candidate of the future.
Joy.
Donald
You
Trump
fucking
was
of joy.
was
Of
a
joy.
Of
performance
joy and
of
love.
candidate
Yeah,
Of
yeah,
the
yeah.
fucking
And
future.
hope
She's the
and
vice
joy.
president now.
Yeah.
Never really seemed to look at her, to just angry,
God damn
really
it.
yelling at some points, trying to make his points. I don't think we heard a lot of policy and plans on either side of that, despite those questions over and over again.
He
But
talked
what
about
you
policy
had
the
was
whole
that
time.
The whole time he
uptick.
talked
You
about
had
policy.
Does
Kamala
she
Harris
honestly
looking
gotta
over,
look? She
baiting him
looks like she's
again
sucking
and
on
again
a
and
gas
again.
lamp right now.
The microphones were muted when they weren't speaking, but many times she didn't need a microphone. You watch Donald Trump get mad and scowl through things. And, you know, John, we were all talking leading up to this about how this would go, what Donald Trump
What is she talking about?
I think he had
Get to
a
the
plan
fucking point,
for
bitch.
talking about what he saw as a next term, but then he was talking about rumors about people eating their neighbors' pets. So it really devolved into that.
I mean, look, Kamala Harris didn't really explain some of the big questions that were out there about why she changed her policy views on so many things. Part of the reason is Donald Trump really was not effective in bringing the debate to her. I agree with you. I think that he looked not just angry, but also rattled. And
Wow,
fuck are
dude.
you talking
Wow.
about?
This is why I wanted to play this, because you're right. This is exactly what was going to
Harris
happen.
looked like she belonged on the stage, looked like she
Kamala Harris belongs on the
is somebody
stage.
that could serve as president.
And that is certainly how the campaign is feeling tonight. I can tell you, the Harris campaign feels very good. They
What?
feel they had a
You're
very
correct.
strong.
This is exactly what Rob
I'm
said.
telling you.
President said that she was
100% this is
able,
what they're
they
going to
feel,
say.
to hold Donald Trump accountable for his actions. And of course, that was their goal going into this, that she would be able to put
What
Donald
actions?
Trump's record under a microscope.
Great.
And
His
they feel
record
that
was
the
great.
strongest
8%
example of
total
that
inflation in
exchange
4 years. That's
of
his record.
extortion,
It's
where
great.
She was able really to
Lowest
blame
unemployment
Donald
rate
Trump
for black
directly
people in
to
the
his
history of the
face.
country.
And
But
she
let's
said,
talk
what you are
about
putting
killing
women through
babies.
Yeah.
is
Because that's what Democrats
unconscionable.
want.
Yes,
Let's talk
she
about
goaded him.
murdering
She
kids
flat out
up to
told
the
him
point where they're
many
born.
You do
times,
got to
got him
wonder
off
people
message,
who are
but she also
in
talked
like
directly to
isolated
voters, even inviting
timelines
them
in life
to a Trump rally to
who haven't
underscore that central
done
argument in
any
her
research
campaign.
of their own
She
how
says he's only
effective
out
this
for
is
himself, that
to
she
them.
argues she's
Well,
out
they're
to be
fucking
back.
idiots.
Rachel?
Legit
The
idiots.
Trump campaign is going to be
The
seizing
American
on the fact
voter
that Vice
is
President
full of
Kamala
fucking
Harris did
lies.
not do
They have no
a
idea what's
great
actually
job today
happening.
really
And they
explaining
go
her
off talking
policy
points like
shifts,
this.
right?
And they listen
and
to
that is
fucking
what they
people
have
like
been
this.
seizing on. They're really
who
trying to
legitimately,
define her for
they
voters.
can't
and voters
decide
have a lot
that
of
eggs are
questions
very
about her
expensive.
policy
But let's
positions.
listen to this bitch.
At the same time,
She'll
though,
tell me that
almost
everything's fine.
every single thing that Vice President Kamala Harris said tonight got under Trump's skin. And that is
What
exactly what his
are you
allies and his
talking about?
advisors did not want to see.
But this is the the problem.
He didn't.
So-
There wasn't one outburst.
But here's the problem.
Not once.
When you go on ABC, and then this leads into the after show, this is what people are going to fucking watch. Like, because they're already watching this. So are our viewers.
I mean,
So are the people who are watching this thing. They're going to listen to this fucking bullshit. And that's exactly why I wanted to leave this on the same way with CNN.
This is all straight up propaganda nonsense.
Straight?
Yes.
1,000%.
100%.
Propaganda.
Oh, look at this faggot.
Yes.
How are you feeling?
Oh, hey, Tim.
Oh, look at that. Oh, Tim Walz is here.
Hey, Smiley.
Are they going to go to JD Vance
fucking
next?
Fake war hero.
So
Fuck
many
you.
knew, and now many Americans know, is you saw a president for all
Listen to
America
this
in Kamala
shit.
Harris. You saw the confidence, you saw the vision, you saw the poise, and you saw the compassion for people, understanding she spoke about an economy that
He's
moves
sucked more dicks than she has.
This guy lets cities burn to the ground.
If he had as many
abandoned his
dicks
men.
going in his body as he did coming out, he'd be
how
a
we start
fucking
small
porcupine.
businesses or making home ownership easier. And on the other side, you saw a nearly 80-year-old Donald Trump, angry, unhinged, and as you've been discussing,
Everybody's saying angry and unhinged. This is the talking point they all discussed before the debate.
But joy. Look at the joy.
Before the
He was
debate.
fine.
Hey, Tim, as a combat vet, you're a fucking liar. You're a fucking liar. You've never been to combat. Go fuck yourself, you fucking child. I'm telling you that right now.
Whoopsies.
I think
Cunt.
the whole country can see what happened tonight. We'll keep pushing forward. That's the way
Tim
the
cut
country
out there.
wants to
Not
see our
great for
politics
ABC.
be.
Not
She
great
laid
for
it
you,
out clearly.
Tim.
Donald Trump brought nothing tonight. Anger, resentment.
I don't understand what they're talking about.
Wait, hang on. No, because here's why. He cut
I
out.
do want to ask you, she did not
And they had to interrupt.
answer questions on abortion restrictions. She never really answered that question. Can you clear that up where the Harris-Walz ticket
Look at his
stands on
stupid
that?
face.
And look at the way he's fiddling his thumbs.
And you couldn't get any different than this. The reinstitution of Roe versus Wade, what was the law of the land for 52 years. You saw this in there, and him pushing back
For
to
30
the
or
states
52
is
years.
Exactly right. It's
God,
people like
which one is
Amanda
it?
in Texas, which everybody saw on the stage in Chicago, nearly bleeding out, having sepsis twice because she can't get the care. She's been absolutely clear on this. Everything Donald Trump said, that is untrue. The clarity of this is Roe. When you have Roe, you have the protections in place where women make their own decisions with their health
And this
care
isn't our
providers,
internet,
not
by the way.
Donald
He's
Trump.
cutting out on his own
Hey,
live on
thanks
ABC.
so very much for joining us, Governor.
Yeah, and they're
John.
cutting him off and getting him the
we
fuck
have
out of
the other
there.
side of the ticket. We
Wow.
have Senator J.D. Vance.
All right,
Donald
so I was
Trump's
wondering if
running
they would
mate
get to
joining
J.D.
us.
Vance. Here we go.
How much
Vance, thank you for
eyeliner is he
joining
wearing
us.
tonight?
Well,
A little bit.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it.
no, he's just born with it. Maybe it's Maybelline.
I want to get to one part in the debate where you came up.
Can we talk about abortion again?
Donald Trump was asked if he would veto a national abortion ban. He didn't answer the question, suggested, I guess, that he wouldn't. And then it was pointed out that you, in fact, said not that long ago that he would veto a national abortion ban. Can you explain the mix-up here?
Well, I think the president's been very clear that he doesn't want a national abortion ban. I think in some ways he finds the question a little bit ridiculous because why are we asking him about legislation that's never going to actually happen and why he would veto it or not veto it when he says very explicitly that he doesn't support a national abortion ban and he wants these policies to be made by the states. But I think there's a deeper and more important issue here in this debate, which is that you had Kamala Harris effectively echoing platitude after platitude after platitude. The American people can't pay their grocery bills on platitudes. They can't put their kids in a house on platitudes. And Kamala Harris had a lot to say, but very little actual substance behind it for how she's going to lower grocery prices, secure the border, and make housing more affordable in this country. She's been the vice president for 3.5 years. She can't run on her record, and she apparently can't run on much of her plans either because it's just a lot of slogans and not a whole lot of substance.
It's a great answer.
Senator Vance, why won't he just say that he would veto the national abortion ban? And by the way, had you spoken to him about it before you were put in a position to answer that question?
No, I hadn't spoken to him about it because, again, Donald Trump thinks the question is absurd because he doesn't support a national abortion ban, and he's been explicit about it. And, John, I think that it's so preposterous for the media to focus so much on an issue where Donald Trump has been crystal clear and not on the fact that people can't afford groceries and housing because of Kamala Harris's policies. This election is actually quite simple, and Kamala Harris and apparently the media would like to distract Americans on issues, by the way, that Donald Trump's been crystal clear about. about, but they're not talking nearly enough. This debate didn't talk nearly enough about the fact that Americans are struggling because they can't afford groceries, they can't afford housing, and a lot of their kids are dying of fentanyl overdoses because Kamala Harris has let the Mexican drug cartels take over the southern border. This is a disgrace what's going on in our country, John, and we could do so much better if we just had better leadership. We've got the best workers, the most beautiful country, the best natural resources, but Kamala Harris's leadership is squandering the great benefits of this country. It's why we've got to get back to Donald Trump's leadership.
Why do Republicans die in this
Senator,
fucking
by the way,
hell?
I asked because he hadn't.
Oh, they already won.
And he said something different than what you said. That's why I was seeking clarification. But let me ask you about this for just very quickly. I heard Donald Trump before this debate describe Kamala Harris as, I'll just read a few of them, a low IQ individual, somebody who doesn't have the mental capacity to be president, really dumb, unable to put two sentences together. Is that what you saw on the stage tonight?
John, what I saw was a lot of slogans. I think the American people are smart, and Kamala Harris talks to them like they're children. She repeats these ridiculous platitudes where if you actually think about what she said, you realize that it doesn't make any sense. She talks a lot about her plans, but then her plans, when you analyze the substance, don't make any sense. And more importantly, John, the American people don't get fed on plans. She has been the vice president for 3.5 years. What she can't do, refuses to do, and has no ability to do is to say, I accomplished lower prices because she didn't, or I accomplished lower housing prices because she didn't, or I secured the southern border because she didn't do that.
Boring.
She has failed as vice president, and the fundamental question is do we want to give her a promotion? I think the answer has to be no, John.
All right,
These are your typical arguments, right?
One thing both sides can agree on, this was a consequential night in this race. More reaction when we come back.
The conversation is over. The conversation is over as soon as it was returned back to the states as the Constitution demands.
It is.
End the fucking story.
And then what time is it on the East Coast right now?
Well, I mean, even look at what they say about the.
It's 11 o'clock.
11 o'clock. Ryan Mills had a count in his head there. An hour. We're only an hour behind on Texas time. You would really count that out there for an hour behind, and then that's fine. No.
I don't need to hear anymore.
Yeah, we don't need it anymore. Like, and for real, like for our audience, by the way, the reason why we don't go to a Fox feed or something like that, and we didn't do that after the last debate, is I think it's helpful. We know what Fox is going to say. We know what CNN's going to say. I want to hear what the actual network who televised the debate is going to say, because a lot of people actually just leave it on in the background, and then they leave whatever the talking heads are on to see. So I want to see what they say. Last time we did CNN went after Joe Biden endlessly on that. I wanted to see what ABC was going to say. It's exactly what we thought they were going to say at the end of the night. And I think it's fine. For me personally, Dan, I agree with you. There's probably, 15% of voters who maybe haven't made up their minds yet?
Maybe, yeah. People who are deciding if they're going to hold their nose and vote for Trump despite all the negative feelings they have about him.
Right.
Those are the only people still making up their minds, in my opinion.
That's it. And to me, he held serve. He was fine tonight. Shit, I thought he was better tonight than he was in the Biden debate. And
yeah, he was definitely more disciplined. Yeah,
because he stayed on policy. He didn't go after. He didn't look aggressive. The only times that someone was cut off tonight was when Kamala cut off him.
Excuse me.
Yeah, exactly.
Excuse me, which, by the way, is stuff he did in the 2016 campaign trail that was hilarious.
Hilarious, but she also did that to Joe Biden in 2020.
Yeah,
so that was a callback to those lines.
No, she did it to Mike Pence.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I put my headphones back on, by the way.
Yeah, so you're good to go on that. But overall, as a whole, I think Trump did a great job tonight. If you're a Democrat, Kamala lived, I guess, but it's the same thing. There was no policies. She's running on some hope and a dream and a prayer that she's going to figure shit out. But as Trump said at the end of his speech tonight, you've had 3.5 years to figure it the fuck out, and you didn't. So why should we vote for you?
I thought he closed really strong.
I did too.
He could have, the front half of that closing statement was a bunch of nonsense, to be honest. I mean, he was talking shit, which is fine, but he could have listed all the shit they fucked up and then said,
that would have been smart.
The way I would have closed is like, the economy is the worst it's been in half a century right now. At least, according to your own numbers, at least 10 million illegals have come in here. Fentanyl, 85,000 people a year are dying from fentanyl at a minimum, if it's not 100. blah, blah, blah. List those for the first 30 seconds and spend the rest of the time saying, and you're talking about how there's going to be hope and change, and you have no plan for it. And the plan you did say is all a bunch of ephemeral nonsense when you can go shut that border down right now.
Yep.
You can walk it. I mean, he said it.
And he said it during the debate.
Walk into Joe
there now
Biden's
and
bedroom,
shut it down.
wake him up,
Yep.
get him to sign an executive order, and it's over.
Wake him up on the beach and say, hey, dude, I've got some copper tone.
Yeah.
I'm going to apply this to your back. You got to wake up and you got to shut down the border.
I thought he did well despite that, though. I mean, he's just armchair quarterbacking a live debate is stupid, frankly.
It is, and that's why we'll close with this tonight. Rob, you're going to be on the show tomorrow. We've got a 9/11 remembrance show. Your brother's going to be here on the show tomorrow. Tommy over there.
We're never going to forget tomorrow.
No, we're not, and it's because Tommy took some fentanyl back in the day and lived from China, and he's one of the few survivors, and we're going to talk to him tomorrow about it.
She was exquisitely well.
But Chris Christie's on, so everybody.
No, we don't.
No, you can kill Chris Christie.
I don't need to hear what the fucking Hamburglar has
all
to say.
Good. If Pizza Hut still had dine-in, I would love to hear from Chris Christie, but we don't have the Pizza Hut buffet dine-in.
Up next, Wimpy.
Exactly.
Fuck this guy.
Gladly bury you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
Look at
Yeah.
this fat piece of shit. His head's about to explode.
Exactly. D'Anthony, before we get off air, tell everybody where they can register to vote.
Fuck you.
You can find me literally at www.gofuckyourself.com.
It's vote 4america.org. No matter what state you're in, you can register to vote for whatever party or no party, depending. Some states require a party, but I don't give a shit who you register with or who you vote for. Just participate.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're a cunt.
I agree, and you've got to fight for your right to party.
Yeah.
I don't care what party it is, just go out and vote.
I'm going to go ahead and disagree with you on that right now because I don't think people should vote because they're fucking stupid.
I want to know what love is.
Yes, so do I. So do I. And we'll find out tomorrow. Join us on Drinkin' Bros podcast for our 9/11 special with Mr. Rob O'Neill. His brother Tommy will be here. We'll be live with you people. And then we might go see Creed tomorrow night. Brother, he gonna take me higher. For Anthony Hollaway, Rob O'Neill, I'm Ross Patterson. This is the Drinkin' Bros podcast. Good night, everyone.